Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Garblag Games. This is Warhammer Wednesday, Age of Sigmar Soulbound. This is episode 5 of Hallowed Are The Gods. I am your game master this evening, Dan, and here is my motley crew, who I'm sure need no introduction, as they are here every Wednesday for the foreseeable future, playing Warhammer in some form. However, I will let them introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Dan.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Other Dan. Tonight I am playing Dathos, the Night Quester Stormcast Eternal. I have spent some of my last XP, and I spent it on additional point of fortitude, just because I am not tough enough.
Yeah, just making my life as a GM just a little bit harder, and I appreciate it.
Determined to hit 15 toughness by the end of this campaign.
You can't be that far off me at this point. Speaking of tough, let's go to our tree, Roger.
Hi, I'm Roger, and I'm playing Boreal Ragewood, and I think I bought some reflexes, which upped my defense. And I also bought a new talent, which is Immense Strikes, which means I hit a bit harder.
As if you
I thought I needed to.
Yes. Viewers, you can see which way this is going. Aaron, Grim Red Hammer, how are you doing this evening?
Grim Red Hammer's doing fantastic. He has managed to find some gold, and that makes him smile. He's an Auric Rune Smiter, a priest of Grimnir, Zagrum, and he holds true to all his contracts. And because he's had spent a lot of time away from the Temple Forges recently, he was a little slow on his feet, so he spent some XP on reflexes as well to up his defense, because he was getting cold cocked by all these baddies.
Yes, yeah. Again, viewers, you can see the direction this is going. This isn't hard enough for my characters already. And last, but by no means least, Jim.
Hey, dudes. I am Jim, and I'm playing Tunzel, the Ideneth Deepkin emissary. I like being wet. My favourite in the group at the moment, although I won't tell him because it'll give him a big head, is the Red Hammer chap. But I'd like to just go through reasons why I like that, and that's because he's got nearly as long hair as me, and it's always wet as well, but is his sweat, whereas mine is seawater. Nearly the same thing, but yes.
It's all fair. I do smell like wet fur.
I'm sorry. You've broken. Composure. Right. Last week, our adventurers made their way through the Bog of Despair. They helped a child that turned out to be a spirit. That did actually turn out to be a child, but they helped, and they helped heal the land, which gained them a soulfire point and replenished their pool. And then they sort of adventured a bit deeper into Gairan and headed through some woodlands. Warrior got some weird tree song messages about danger. Transpired that Foric Ironside, also known as Ard, from the bar in Hammerhall, was waiting for them in an ambush, but wasn't really an ambush because they announced themselves by sharpening their weapons. Promptly, the party killed them. Poor Dwarden. But in doing so, they actually killed a noble hero of Order and actually added to the Doom pool as well. So we left our adventurers. They were patching themselves up, and in the direction of Life's Point, which is the fairly largest trading town between sort of the sacred glades of the Sylvaneth and Hammerhall Gyra. There's smoke in the distance, and that's the direction that our party are heading. Because that's where the map and the compass is telling them to go, and you are making your way through the ravines. So obviously about another day. You were about another day's walk out. So obviously you took time to rest and patch yourself up. So if you have any toughness missing, put it all back on, because you would have taken plenty of time to heal up and patch up. And so you continue to walk through the ravine. It's fairly deep, and it's dark trees above you, and not much light is getting down to where you are. You're not sure if it's day or light, but every now and again you catch a glimpse out, and you can still see the smoke off in the distance, and it's getting closer. Roger, for you, the whole time you've been sort of walking through here, the tree song's been warning you. It's not been a clear message to this point. It's danger, darkness, chaos. Just giving you random sort of words in your language and that. No one else can hear this at the moment. But sort of as you start to come towards the end of the ravine, you can sort of feel yourself moving uphill now, and the smoke, you can actually now see a break in the woodland ahead of you, and you can see the smoke sort of off in the horizon, but not too far off, probably about a couple of hours walk off now. And as the trees start to thin and you get closer to it, you can see the walls now of the town, and they're a wooden palisade, as you would expect for a sort of a large town to have. There's clearly signs that something's been going on. There is a fairly large ring of clear open land around the town. Roger, much to your dismay, there's a lot of chopped down tree stumps. The tree song, however, has got louder to you at this point. Very loud. In fact, it's almost full sentences of "Watch the darkness travel on the land. Danger. Watch out for the Nurgle." It's giving you clear warnings that they're the scions and sons of Nurgle have been marching around on the lands. Unbeknownst to you, though, Roger, Jim and Redhammer, you can also hear the tree song. And it's not as clear to you, but you can hear every now and again the word danger. And at first, it's probably discomforting because you've never heard the tree song before. But you three are linked by Soulbound, so you have linked souls. So whether your bond's getting stronger, you're not entirely sure, but something is allowing this tree song to flow through Ragewood and into you guys. And it's warning you, there's danger.
What's that bloody danger? Who the hell is talking to me in my head?
Just kind of turn around and you can hear the tree song.
Yeah, dude, it's telling us danger.
Yes, they are. The trees are telling me there's the presence of Nurgle.
Well,
you're not hearing any of this.
Borir, point us in the right direction and we'll take care of it if it's on the way. As long as it's not too far off mission, because I've got a deal to finish and payment to be collected.
It does not
Gentlemen,
say where it's coming from.
I do not hear anything. Are you all of sound mind?
Clean out your ears, Tin Can.
The tree song is natural.
So ahead of you,
How to take that?
It's sort of after a little while, the tree song starts to die down a little bit, back to only Borir being able to hear it. It's obviously while there is a link through the soul between the three of you, because you're soulbound, you're linked to each other. Only obviously when it's crying out loudly. The last word you hear from the tree song, though, all of you, is Sacred Grove. That's it. See, Roger, it goes back into sort of a song now, and you hear the odd word through it, but it's sort of it's almost like a repeating message, like a warning. But before you, and I say before you, it's a vast bit of open land. I would say almost 200 meters to the wall. There's a big ring. Obviously, you can't see the full ring because it's quite a large town, so you can't see fully around the city. But your guess is that this ring goes around the entire, and it's probably because the people who built the town thought it'd probably be a good idea to have at least a decent line sight. So that they couldn't get ambushed easily. So they've cut back all the trees, built a palisade, and so on and so forth.
Banners or anything?
I was just going to ask you, give me an intuition check. You're having a look around. It's a 4-1, but depending on what you get, depends on what you see.
Is that just one person?
No, all of you, because you're kind of surveying this. There's smoke coming from there's clearly smoke coming from the town.
Awareness or intuition? Intuition,
because you're looking for something, you're investigating. I hear it.
What's the difficulty numbers?
Oh wow.
4-1.
Okay.
Oh, well done, Grim. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so the vast majority of you, sort of as you're looking out and that, sort of, Roger, there are some flailed banners of like sort of ripped and that on the walls. They clearly look like a Hammerhall banner. Understandably, this is probably a bit one of their expanded trading posts. There's clear signs of a fight. You're looking around and you can see sort of like you can see the smoke coming from the town, and you can see the walls. The walls show marks of damage, but more importantly, when you sort of look a little closer, the wall, some of the wood you can tell is rotting. Especially for you, Roger, Bora can see this kind of rot. You've seen this kind of rot before, and that was back in the Age of Time when Nurgle was deep into Gairan and was infecting the woods, and the wood of the palisade seems to be sort of almost rotting away and creating holes in the wall. Grim, you obviously looking a lot more aware than the others are. You can see a lot of footprints on the ground outside the city. Clearly, a large force was here. What's more disturbing for you, though, however, is that it's not a natural footprint. It's not a footprint of a tree, of a dwarf, a dwarden, of an elf or human. It looks very foreign, very unnatural. And there's sort of where the footprints are, you can almost see blotches of sort of the ground, the grass, and that's dying away. Away from these footprints, and there's that sort of arrows dug in the ground and whatnot, but there appears to be no dead bodies. Daphos, you notice something very important though, and that is a scorch mark on the ground, and nobody else would probably really notice this because it would probably just look like normal battle damage, but for you, it's clearly a lightning upwards, not downwards, which would suggest the Stormcast Eternal was here at some point and has died. And that's just on the outside of this wall. You can see it just like there's the wall heading towards it looks like it's heading towards it would have been heading towards the gate that's nearby.
And he would have died there. He or she would have died there. So it's definitely sort of scorch mark of lightning burns in the ground. And in a way, where you can see the footprints of the unnatural creatures and the ground dying away, where this scorch mark is, there appears to be none of that flowing onto this scorch mark or in near this scorch mark, as if that area of land is pure in that moment. But you, Daphos, know for a fact that is a Stormcast Eternal who has fallen there. So I'll point over and say, a Stormcast died there.
And you see all these tracks here, they're unnatural, not made by any good folk, and the rot in the ground. I mean, I expected the walls to be breached, shoddy manling construction, but this force that came against this town was not natural.
Yeah, man, it's just bad.
Yeah, and as sort of Grim points that out, you sort of look and actually now you're all getting casting your eye over it. This was a large force. This wasn't a hunting party. This wasn't a small group. This was probably a nigh on an army. There's a lot of footprints there. There was a lot of people here, or a lot of unnatural things here. So it was a big sort of like grouping out here, and you can sort of see that it obviously started here, but at some point something has happened and the footprints all move towards the gate, which you can see is completely sort of off the hinges, like it's been totally wrecked and destroyed. And so everything seems to be pointing in that direction. But what would you like to do?
Do I recognize the footprints?
No, you do not recognize the footprints either.
I think we should be proceeding with caution.
Aye, Dathos, good plan. We need to continue on towards the Sacred Grove anyway, so through the town we should be going to see what's happened here.
But
Yeah,
we will
speaking of which,
the
the compass that was originally Daphos, unusually, the compass which was originally pointing sort of off to almost circumvent the town, has changed direction now and is now pointing you into the town.
Okay.
So the compass, which is not supposed to do this, has changed its direction in which it's pointing now.
Well, if that's not portents and omen, I don't know what is. We shall follow the compass.
Excellent.
Lead on, Dathos.
So I'm assuming you cautiously make your way towards the city.
Definitely.
Yes, and sort of as you sort of round the walls and as you got closer, you can now see this rot on the walls. Interestingly, though, as you're crossing the field, as you first step into this ring of no trees, Ragewood, you notice that the tree song stops. It's not like a case of it's not it's
Fading,
quiet.
it
It just cuts off. It's there. As soon
when
as
we
you
enter
step,
the thing.
when you enter the big ring of no trees, where you see some of this rotten stuff. So literally, as you step out of the sort of the trees. Now that's unusual because even if you're not in the trees, even if you're in another realm, you can normally hear to a point the tree song. But right now you've just stepped into it and the tree song's just gone. There's nothing. It's silence, which is extremely unusual and probably a bit unnerving because as a Sylvaneth, you're sort of always linked to the tree song.
Yeah, I'll kind of freeze and just start looking around, trying to see if I can see any reason why.
Nothing is there to your eyes that you can see, but something is obviously abating or sort of nullifying the tree song or stopping the tree song, or maybe the tree song just doesn't want to penetrate this area. You're not entirely sure. Interestingly, as you sort of walk along and you get closer to the walls, your footsteps, all of you, sort of chase away the rot. So as you step, the rot that was there in the ground and killing the grass and the flowers, it sort of abates, as if to say, you're a purifying presence. You're stepping on the sacred ground. This is Gairan. It's the realm of life, so it might react to different sort of intentions, essentially. And so the ground sort of purifies as you're stepping on it, and you make your way round to the gates cautiously, rightly so. And the gates, it's clear something big smashed through the gates. And when I say big, because you had the gate and then you have the sort of the rampart bit above the gate sort of around, and that's completely smashed through as well, as if something just went straight through the gate and has absolutely destroyed it. And sort of as you sort of slowly make your way into town, you can see the buildings and there's sort of fires on the buildings and the same sort of rot, and there's even some rot in like where you sort of see some stone buildings. You can even see some rot sort of creeping into the brickwork, which again, not expected normally, as it were. And you can see bodies sort of laying around. It's mostly soldiers to begin with, and then you start to see obviously civilians that were clearly running from something. And as you're making your way through the town, you can hear it sort of off in the distance towards the center of the town, sort of a ringing. Now it could be a bell or it could be a hammer striking an anvil. It's that kind of noise, that kind of towards the center of the town. Daphos, you notice and probably point out as you're going through at least another 2 scorch marks as you're moving through the town. So there have been more Stormcast Eternals have died.
Have died here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's at least another 2. So you're counting up 3 now. That's 3 Stormcast Eternals that have been killed in this city very, very recently.
Can
yeah?
Take an educated guess as to how long ago it was?
Yeah, I mean, so give me you got lore? Give me, what lore talent have you got?
Lore talent?
Yeah, there should be a lore talent. I'm going to pull up your... Yeah, give me a lore check. Actually, give me a theology check, but it's a 2-1 because you know what you're looking at. You know what you're looking for. It's a very easy theology. It's the bottom to right one. There you go. So it was just a 2-1, so that you actually got 2 successes there. Yeah, you think that this has happened in at least the last day, fairly recently. It probably happened maybe even within the last 24 hours. And the sort of the compass is now spinning.
I'll point out the scorch marks and say to my colleagues, this happened in the last 24 hours. And then I'll point to the compass, which is now spinning.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's my thing, Dathos. If we cleanse this town like we cleansed the bog, I'm going to be requesting 2 change orders on this contract. Let's get to it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Indeed.
It looks like he's going to be getting lots of money out of this one, folks. So as you're making your way through town, you sort of like look into buildings and you're sort of doing doors and corners, like the kind of thing. You're moving very cautiously and probably very stealthily along the building lines rather than just trudging down the middle of the street. And you're sort of getting closer to the town centre. And you can hear almost, it's not crying or screaming, but you can hear noises in the distance, sort of bashing noises and all sorts. But that ringing noises continued, that it's been rhythmic, it's been constant, it hasn't stopped. And as sort of you're sort of coming towards the town square, I'm assuming you're not going to want to round it straight away. Is there anything you would like to do before we start rounding towards the town square?
Well, doing a little stealth, going a little stealthy and keeping our eyes open, I think is the way to go.
Are there any tracks that I recognise?
No, the streets are cobble. So other than the fact you can see rot in the some of the cobble, which, like I said, as soon as you guys are stepping onto it and stepping through it, it's sort of abating and dissipating.
Can I jump up on my eel and just go for a bit of a scout, see what's in there?
Of course you can. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, you essentially can fly, so you can sort of encourage the AFC to go over buildings and stuff and things like that. So it's a bit easier for you to move around. I will ask you to give me a stealth roll, though. So you can have a sort of give me a stealth roll to see if you can actually get over the sort of buildings, as it were.
That's just plain rude.
How long is this since we encountered the dwarf?
About 2 days.
Okay. What's my numbers? 4 and 1.
4 and 1, yeah. Just 4 and 1. That's fine. I only wanted 1 success because they aren't very observant. So you sort of like jump on your eel and you sort of skirt the buildings and start to make your way along the rooftops. You guys can see him do this, and he's sort of flown. As you do, Jim, you sort of get to sort of one of the peaks of the building, and you can see into the town centre, and you can see where now this noise is coming from, this ringing. In the middle of the town, as would be expected, there is an extremely large temple to Sigmar, and the ringing appears to be coming from there. It's a big old bong. What more catches your eye is the humongous army of plague bearers ripping at the building.
Shit.
There's probably in excess of 60 of them.
But anything bigger, did you say?
No, nothing huge. No huge monsters or anything there.
Not bigger than 60 plague bearers.
But there is 60 plague bearers. They're swarming around the building and clawing at the building.
No, I'm not going to charge you.
You can clearly see that there is maybe a slightly bigger plague bearer towards the building, sort of surrounded. He looks a bit bigger, a few more spikes and horns coming off of him, and slightly bigger sword. He looks like he might be in command here. But something you also notice that as the plague bearers are scraping at the building, they're burning away and becoming discorporeal and phasing away. So they're not.
Does it look like they are harming the building though?
You can't quite tell from this distance. It's not. Some of them you can see are sort of like bludgeoning the wall with their claws and their swords, and the swords are breaking, or their sort of hands are coming away as stumps. And you can see there's like the odd mark on the building of blood, of their greeny, gooey blood. But you can't tell if any damage is being sustained by the building. But the ringing noise is rhythmic, and it is coming from that building.
Sorry, what kind of building were they trying to rip down?
Temple. A very large temple of Sigmar. It's fairly, Jim, you can see it's fairly well appointed. As you would expect from a temple of Sigmar. It's well appointed. It's solid stone. If anything, they've probably gathered the best stones they could find in the area to carve this. There's a big old sign of the hammer on above the sort of doorways as you sort of go leading up to it. It's well appointed. It looks sturdy and strong. You've sort of in your mind tactically, if you were retreating civilians, that's where you would retreat them to. Okay. So in your mind, you think there's probably survivors.
I'll turn tail and go back to. I'll think about murder hobo in them, but I'll turn tail and head back. Yeah. Even though that is my nature to slaughter them all.
That's fair.
Absolutely fair. So what would you like to relay to the group when you return?
Tin Can Man. There's a build into your main dude, down there.
Sigmar?
Yeah, that could be it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a load of plague bearers. They're Nurgle things. Yeah.
I start oiling up while as soon as he mentions Nurgle.
I don't think we're going to be able to stop the tree because they really hate Nurgle, don't they?
Yes, they do. In fact, you can, even though he's normally deadpan, you get a sense of rage coming from him. I mean, that's probably what they call him, Ragewood.
Ragewood.
Yeah.
Ragewood is raging.
Yeah, you can feel that coming from. And again, like especially Grim and Jim and Tanzil, you can feel this even more. And again, maybe your Soulbound link is getting a bit stronger because you've been sort of going through these trials together. You're fairly newly Soulbound. You've been around for a bit, but this is a real trial. But I think you can feel, Davos, you can see the anger, but you guys can feel the anger, and it's almost as if it's becoming your anger.
I'll turn to Red Hammer and say, Rager's going to want to go in, and he's going to want to go in fast. I think
start running.
our job here is to back him up and then start running after him.
So Grim Redhammer immediately, lifts his new axe, which he has named Ironside in reverence to the fallen Thoric. And he starts in this grumbling, deep, rumbling chant. And you all feel the runic empowerment surround you as his stubby legs try to keep up with a giant, running tree. +1 armor. Let's go.
Okay, our party is prepared. And as you all round the corner in your gallantry and heroism and rage, you are confronted by a fairly sizable force. At this point, there is 60 plague bearers in there. They are swarms of 5 for your reference in terms of fighting, and they are stacked up towards this building. And you all now can see what Jim saw earlier. There's a group of them that are ripping at the building, and every now and again, when one of them hits the building, either their hands burn off or sometimes they just completely kapoof. Davos, what you can see, which nobody else can see, this temple's glowing, and it's glowing hard. And the hammer on the front is, if it was a normal human's eyes, they would be blinded by it. Of course, you're the Stormcast Eternal, but only you can see this, which suggests to you there is some sort of either magical or, more importantly, godly protection on this building. Ooh. But what you do notice is there are areas where it's starting to flicker and fail. So there are areas around the side, they're beating it, and some of them are now getting their sort of swords into the wall, and you can see it sort of flickering. So either something is inside maintaining this essentially force field, or it's Sigmar's protection, but it is wearing out. It is not a sort of unlimited resource, as it were.
As we charge in, because, discretion has frankly gone out the window, I will be shouting to whoever's inside, followers of Sigmar, we come to your aid, as loud as I can, so they know that reinforcements are on their way.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to hear us in a second anyway.
Yeah, they probably will. But the rhythmic boom sort of continues to reverberate and sort of continue. And again, Davos, you notice something every time that sort of it glows a little bit brighter for a second and then starts to die away. So you feel like there's a big connection going on here. But as you sort of scream that as you're all running around the bend, Davos, you actually see there are some windows, and in the windows is faces. They are humans, and they are clearly holding up in there. And you see a woman holding a child. It's clearly mostly civilians inside there by the looks of things. If there is any fighting people in there, they're probably behind the door, holding the door and barring the door. So, but right now, they are trapped and surrounded by lots and lots of plague bearers. Can I have your initiatives, please?
Guess what? After I put some points into my reflexes, old Grim Redhammer's initiative is 5.
Whoa! Nice! Wow, that is a speedy dwarf. Sorry, Dwarden. We are in Dwarden. That Dathos, where are you sitting at these days?
I'm at 3.
Oh, okay. Dathos is at 3. Excellent. Right. Well, needless to say, not only are you going to catch them by surprise because you stealthily approach rather than rage wooding it straight away, they weren't aware of your presence. They weren't expecting you. And so where they were all queued up to sort of start scraping at this building, and sort of why, even as you've charged round, we're now down to 55 plague bearers because 5 of them have just poofed as they're touching the building. And standing before you is a row of 5 plague bearer swarms ahead of you. This is
mine was 7, by the way.
Yours is 7. Oh, I put you down to 6, but obviously you've sped
I was 6, but I'm now 7.
Oh, Tanzil, am I right in saying you're still 6?
This initiative, yeah?
Yeah.
Initiative.
It's on the combat tab.
6. Yeah, 6. It says 2, then 6.
Yeah, it's because you've got talents and stuff that boost yours up. So standing before you is all of these plague bearers, and they don't seem so. You will all get to well. I mean, you will actually, in fairness, in terms of speed, you will get to swing anyway because they are plague bearers. They are extremely slow. So in front of you directly is 6 row. It's essentially call it a row, but there's 6 groups of 5 plague bearers, and you can obviously they're not sort of arranged in that manner, but they're for the purposes of rules, they are swarms of 5 plague bearers, and they are ahead of you. Ragewood, you are going first. I wonder what's going to happen.
Kind of as he impacts into them, he'll first time you'll ever have heard him raise his voice. He just kind of shouts. I don't know if trees really do that. Booms out, "Ever Queen!" and just starts swinging his scythe at them.
Go for it. Swing me a scythe. Ooh.
Oh, I forgot to ask what defense they were.
They are average. So your free one was correct because you're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 1 step.
I've got great.
Yeah. Oh, you've got great. Then you're 2 steps ahead of them. So you should actually be 2s. So all those 2s hit as well.
Okay. So I will spend my focus.
Lovely jubbly. Yeah. So you sort of like dive in.
So it's actually damage 10.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, so you sort of wade into that first, and that first set of plague bearers was not expecting you in the slightest, and sort of some of them die without even you hitting them, and maybe there's a purifying power coming off of you, because they sort of they're locked to this realm from the realms of chaos, but the first set of ahead of you wade into them, and there's a couple of them, you cut them down, and your blade is almost, as you're crying out to the Ever Queen, your blade is almost glowing, and you sort of like remove, and some of them you barely touch, the cut just destroys them and disintegrate, and you catch a couple of the other ones with your scythes as you're going around. But yeah, you've absolutely annihilated the first set of plague bearers that was ahead of you.
And I'll throw up Bulwark.
Yes, that's probably wise. And then you did 2 damage to 2 other ones. So the way this is going to be is it's going to be essentially 2 zones of free rather than all 6 in one zone, because there's quite a lot of them. It's going to have to be spread across. So you hit the other 2 that are with your cleave, sort of as you're wading around.
Otherwise, for a Soulfire, I could wipe the lot.
Yes, you could. Tanzil, you've just seen Ragewood absolutely sort of go in and chop up, and you sort of, all of you now realize why you didn't see any dead bodies outside the walls, because literally as they're dying and body parts are flying off of them, they sort of just fade away. A bit of ichor lands on the floor, but for the most part, and that ichor lands and starts creating sort of rot in the brickwork and stuff, but they kind of dissipate. There's no body to be seen. They're just gone. But Tanzil, we move on to you, good sir.
Yeah, the bigger one?
Yes.
I'm going to charge at him.
He's about 4 zones away. You will not make it to him in a single charge, even on your own.
I'll join the tree then at the front.
Yeah. So the sort of the way it is at the moment, so you've got the two zones. The way this town square is set out, it's divided sort of down the middle. There's 2 zones, and then there's about 4 zones before you get to the front of the building. And he is by the front of the building because he's been concentrating on trying to get inside and get to these last few survivors. So dive in and whatnot.
So
their defense is average.
Yeah.
Oh yes, very much so. So yeah, so you come into sort of, you see your allies wading into them, and sort of as you sort of fly in and dive through, you sort of your eels ripping a few of them up, and you're cutting them out. And before you realise it, around you, sort of you cleared the zone, as it were, of another sort of another batch of them, and sort of like there's a few beleaguered ones who are sort of, you can almost look like they're flickering, like they're fading. They're like their corporeal form is struggling to maintain its hold on the realm in this realm. But ultimately, you've just dispatched another sort of swarm of them as they're ahead of you. That will then bring us to Red Hammer.
Red Hammer runs up.
With my metal.
Oh yeah, of course you can with your metal. Sorry, I totally
Can
forget.
I
your metal.
do the defensive thing with my metal? No.
Do you dodge? Yes, you can do dodge. Yeah, that puts you up a step in your defense.
And my loyal companion, is that my eel?
Yeah, that's your eel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use an action to let that fight as well, but generally speaking, I think your combat's probably a little bit better than his combat is. But he does get bonuses for loyal companion. So, right, sorry, Red Hammer. Sorry, skipped over Jim's metal spending there.
Oh, that's perfectly okay. So he'll pant up and then swing this giant axe around at the first plague bear he gets close to.
Yeah. So I sort of imagine you guys sort of moving as a wave. You're trying to get. So I imagine sort of you're almost doing 2 and 2 to try and sort of get up the thing. So I'll have you swinging into the other plague bears.
Borrow wasn't thinking tactically; he just ran at the nearest lot and started.
Yeah, I mean, I know you probably wasn't, but everyone else is thinking tactically around you right now. I think that was the info we got from Daphos. There was everybody back up the tree because the tree's going to go wild. So they are defense average.
Average, got it.
Let's see this new tasty axe in action.
Yep, 7 damage. Yep, you you absolutely wade into them, and the axe as you go in, Grim, it's glowing, and it's not just glowing. It's not just glowing in its normal sense that it's a magical axe, but it's almost like it's intrinsically reading that it's sort of almost leaning on your power of your runes, as it's sort of, and the glow has a red tint to it, which it shouldn't do because it's not a Fire Slayer forged weapon, but yet somehow it's sort of linking to you. But needless to say, it's hot, it's magical, and some of them, again, same as what was happening with Boreal, some of them are not even really hitting. The axe is getting close to them, and they're sort of dissipating from the realm. It's you're purifying with axe and blade by the looks of things. And again, you just wade in and you sort of wipe out a whole sort of group of them as they're sort of standing there, and bits and pieces fly off them. But as I said before, a bit of ichor hits the floor. But other than that, there are no bodies to look at.
Well, is there any more in range? Because I want to spend my second point of metal to swing again.
Absolutely. There's 2 more groups within the sort of block that you're currently standing in.
All right. So he pivots and swings his axe back. These things go down easy. They pop like soap bubbles.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And as you sort of round your axe, and you almost do it in just one big swing. You don't do like multiple swings. Sort of this group sort of shamble towards you and make hissing noises and stuff. And as sort of your axe passes through them, again, sort of some of them that have like guts that fall out, but they dissipate before they hit the floor, and some of them sort of wail as they sort of almost feel like they're being ripped back out of your realm and stuff. But again, another batch of them are gone ahead of you, and already it's starting to look like you're making headway. You guys are feeling, pretty decent about your sort of initial sort of charge, as it were.
I'm liking this combat.
Red Hammer, dude. How would you know what soap bubbles pop like? Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of soap. We don't use it much. But,
sweat bubbles, but
Okay.
Can't beat.
Sorry, Daphos, you are not next. The exalted plague bearer at the front. He is sort of heard this commotion now. He's sort of turned and he's sort of looking back, and you can see he fixes his eyes upon you. I
thought we had a free round of attacks.
Oh yeah, actually, I did say that, didn't I?
Because I haven't had that.
Yeah, go on, Daphos. Go on, Daphos. Go on. I'll let you go before the.
Can't believe you meta came in there, Dan.
Yeah, oh my God.
I can't believe I'm always last when it comes to this group's initiative.
Not
just in this time.
When you get 2 XP, buy yourself combat ready as a talent.
No. What toughness?
You've gone toughness. I mean, that's your thing, right?
So sort of you say.
Yeah. So sort of ahead of you, Dan, you can see your allies have sort of waded in. They're clear. Have almost pretty much cleared out that first row. There's sort of 5 more shambling towards Red Hammer, but he looks fine. Beyond that, the next row, they've started to turn around now. They're starting to sort of slowly but surely shimmer around.
Taking a smack at.
So you could, and they're only 2 zones away, so you could charge to get to that second row if you wanted to. If not, you could
great.
do a single move action to get to where Red Hammer is.
I'll charge. Well, I've already rolled, so
That's fine. If you charge, it just gives you an extra dice. But to be honest, with what you've just rolled, you would dispatch a group of them. So this sort of, you sort of charge along, and you see Red Hammer. He's sort of wading around and sort of waving this new fancy axe around. And the other side of you can see Tanzil sort of flourishing through and sort of dodging in and out of them. And you kind of just like almost like this. You get like a spring of power to you. It's almost like you're sort of thundering as you go through, and it's like sort of sparks as you hit the cobbles, and you flow through the middle of your group who are now like sort of pushing them back, and you just smash into the next row, and your shield, and as your shield hits, a lightning bolt comes off the shield and just dissolves a whole entire group of them. You don't even swing your blade, you smash through them, and it's like the purifying power of your lightning as it comes off your shield just eradicates 5 of them as they stand before you. And actually, for the first time, you sort of see, not fear, because they're demons, they don't fear, but there's a moment now, a moment of pause amongst them that they realize actually, potentially you're not just some schmuck trying to come in and save, and there's a Stormcast Eternal here with them as well. So maybe this is a bit more of a fight.
And I'll spend a thing on Bulwark.
I thought you might. So we go to the bottom. And what happens is the Exalted Plague Bearer, sort of the guy leading at the front, he sort of turns, and you can see him sort of moving his hands and that, and he sort of lets out quite a disgusting wail. It's like a gurgle mixed with a scream, and you feel like feel uncomfortable. There's an oppressiveness to the air around you, and sort of you see it first, Grim, because you're sort of. Whereas Bora's raging is all looking forward. Filling out from the streets behind you are more plague bearers. It appears that he's called for reinforcements, and they are responding in kind. And they're about 3 zones back from you, but they are making their way up the street. It seems they're going to try and box you in the street now.
Oi,
okay,
Anzel, behind us. Looks like this fight's going to be good after all. We might get double the fee on this change order.
Yeah, and sort of then as that call goes out, the rest of the sort of shambling hordes, apart from the ones that are left scraping at the building, which Daphos you can see is starting to flicker more now, but the rhythmic bonging, has stopped. Not sure why, but it stopped. And so a few of them will come and attack you. So sort of one swarm from the next row, Aaron, sort of makes its way down with the other swarm that was just in front of you, and they're both going to try and swing at you. So the first horde, bonus dice, put that in there. Your good defense at the moment, Aaron?
Great.
Is that correct? Oh, your great defense. God,
great defense.
I don't know how my guys are going to do anything here, but damage 2. Does that affect you in any way, shape, or form?
Nope, my armor is 3 at the moment.
Cool, excellent, fantastic. And then the second ones will try and do the same thing. Wow. Okay, it's gonna be one of those nights, isn't it? So they sort of start coming towards you, but your axe is kind of swinging around, and they're actually a bit nervous because they've seen your axe is like sort of ripping them from this reality with very little effort. And some, like I said, some of your axe blows haven't even landed before they've burst and sort of popped. So
that's right. Come on, you rotten pansies.
So they're sort of swinging at you. Daphos, they're obviously because you've waded into the next row. 3 groups sort of come at you in your zone, and they're trying to bring you down by sheer numbers at this point. They're trying to sort of break your stance and your sort of thing, but you sort of buckled yourself. You're ready. You've got your bulwark up. But what does that put you at now for defense?
Superb.
Yeah, I thought it might. You're evil people, you know that.
I love that power. It's my favorite thing.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
It's my least favorite thing at this point in time, but there we go. Lovely, fantastic. So that what I thought was going to be a hard fight is clearly not going to be a hard fight. Ha! 3 damage.
I have armor 4.
Yeah, I thought that might. Yeah, it is poison, but it only affects you if you actually take damage from it.
Okay, good.
So yeah, you're fine at the moment. if anyone takes damage from it, it's, it can do some nasty things to you. But at the moment, none of you are taking any damage, so that's not fun. There's three in front of you, Ragewood, and another sort of horde sort of comes from the next row as well. So they're both going to swing at you. Your defense is great. Roger?
Superb, because I
Superb.
bulwarked.
Of course you did, because Okay, no, then no. So again, that sort of same as sort of Red Hammer. Sort of they're nervous of your scythe. It's glowing green, the power of the Everqueen, and sort of they know that if they even get close to it, so they're kind of flailing at you at a distance, but nothing lands its mark. And then one lot will come onto you, Tanzil. What's your defense rating at the moment?
My defense rating is a massive defense.
I'm pretty sure you'll be at superb at this point because you were dodging, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Where does it tell me?
It's
combat
tab,
top right-hand
abilities,
side.
top right.
It's like a little shield, and it says next to it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure yours is great as standard.
Yeah.
So you're up to superb because you're dodging at the moment. 3 damage.
I have armor of 2, so that's 1 damage. Yeah.
Is that
no,
2 including Aaron's?
Is
thing?
that including Aaron's
No.
boost? No, that's fine. You're armor free. Yeah, no. So it sort of one comes at you, and one almost lands a blow on you, but you just at the last minute sort of turn it aside with your shield. But yes, it was a fairly lackluster attack from them. So back round to the top, and obviously all you see is all these shambling sort of hordes behind you. You probably estimate there's sort of another 10 swarms making their way up the street behind you. But yeah, they're sort of coming in on all sides now, and some of them are sort of filtering on the alleys to the side as well. Maybe the city wasn't as empty as you. It's just this. Maybe it wasn't just this group in the middle, but it's certainly flowing in around you, and sort of trying to pen you in, and they're trying to bring you down by sheer numbers and rot and whatnot like that. But back up to the top, Ragewood. In front of you is 3 remaining plague bearers from the group that you were fighting previously.
Well,
and then another 5 that stepped in to sort of fight you.
I'll swing at the bigger group first. So their defense is average.
Average, yeah. Yeah, that group of 5 is dead, and the other group of 3 take another 2 full. Very much the same story as previously. Sort of you're swinging, and you're it's glowing more. And Davos, you notice something that the others can't see. There's almost like a light joining the 3 of them together. It's like almost like a very faint white sort of shimmer in the air. And it sort of connects between Tanzil, Ragewood, and Red Hammer, as if they're drawing on the power of each other.
Dan's not in the club. Dan's not in the club.
It's because Stormcast Eternals are not allowed to be soulbound because their soul is already bound to Sigmar.
And I can't die.
And he can't
Sorry.
die.
There is that.
Yeah,
I'll spend my metal to swing again.
I know. I feel rejected.
Yeah,
And
but who are your best mates? Yeah, Sigmar name.
I know.
Dropping, yeah.
I feel.
You're not in the club. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
I feel like the off kid. Sorry.
That's fine. The magic of the scythe is sort of cutting through them. It's like you're barely getting cuts on some of them, but they're just fading from existence.
So I'll spend metal and swing again.
Yeah.
Because Borir is just going to be howling in rage at this point. It's just, I don't know if trees can see red, but he's going to.
No. The lore-wise, the Sylvaneth can feel emotion just the same as anybody else. Needless to say, you finish cutting down sort of the groups around you and Tanzil. You're all sort of clear now at that point. And sort of beyond you, you can see now in the next 2 zones, they're turning their attention towards you. And actually, as you do see that, filling in from around behind the temple. It seems like they may have actually fully surrounded the temple. There are now more marching from behind the temple towards you, boosting their numbers. There's somewhere in existence of about 80 plague bearers now in the town square coming to fight all of you. They seem intent on bringing you down through sheer weight of numbers.
Finally, a good fight.
Yep. Going to next on the channel is Tanzil. So you see sort of Ragewood. He just cuts down everything around you and gives you like sort of a bit of space. You're still 3 or 4 zones out from the exotic blackberry. You still can't quite get over the top, but you figure clear another zone and you might just get a shot at him.
Yeah, let's go to another zone.
Yeah. So the next zone along, there's now 3 groups. They're kind of just feeding into you now, but there's 3 groups ahead of you, ready to fight you. Swing away, good man. Oh, yes, very nice. So you sort of like bring your reel around and sort of you see Ragewood bring his clave around, you kind of almost whoosh sideways underneath it and take out the knees of a load of them and like sort of swing around and bring yourself up. And as you do, like your beautiful hair swings seawater and the seawater itself even burns their skin as it hits them. And again, another 5 fall to the blades of these mighty heroes. And even your blade, which is not blessed by any god in particular, you guys don't really follow any gods, but even your blade seems to be glowing. You're not sure why. Davos, again, you can see this link between them. There's a power flowing between the 3 of them now. They're soulbound to Sigmar. They have their own gods they believe in. They're drawing some power, and it's given them this extra sort of will to break these demonic spirits out of this room. You already have that because you're already part of Sigmar's soul and everything. You don't have to worry about that. That comes naturally to you. But to these 3,
I'm still not part of the cool kids.
I mean, you're still not an actual soulbound. That is correct.
No.
However, you can see this link, and
I have my own super secret club.
Yeah, you do. You made a lightning, mate. It's fine. You don't worry about it. So, Rare. Would you like to do anything with your metal, Jim? Before I skip over.
Yeah, dodge.
Dodge again. Yeah, that's fine. Red Hammer, we are over to you, good sir.
See, we hear him. He's continuing this deep grumbling chant with his point of metal, maintaining the runic empowerment. And then he will swing his new dwarf forged great axe iron side around at another group of these.
Yeah, you currently have two 5s on you. But the sort of what's happened is where you're sort of standing, there's a sort of a fairly wide alleyway, and you can see coming down the alleyway there are more of them as well. So there's sort of more of them are flowing down this alleyway. And sort of you've positioned yourself, it's almost tactical. Sort of Davos is coming behind you and gone into the next row of them, and you're kind of now holding back anything that's coming in from the side to try and keep the flanks clear, as it were. But there's 2 groups of 5 directly in front of you.
Come on there, boys. Let's go.
Yep, that'll do the trick. So your first axe, you've come down and you feel like you get purchase on this one, and before it can fade away, the axe goes clean through, and it's not a pleasant smell, to say the least. It's as the axe goes through, there's a sizzling of the disastrous ichor that is a Nurgle plague bearer, and it's an insult on your nose. That smell alone is going to go in the Book of Grudges, if there is a Book of Grudges for the Fire Slayers. Like, it is an awful smell. But as it sort of falls apart and its ichor spurts out everywhere, it's almost like you made its ichor holy. And as the ichor splats on the rest of its group, they all start to melt and burn and squeal and squelch and turn. And again, there's a bit of ichor on the floor, but there are no bodies left. And that is another batch done. But there is still another batch standing before you, ready to fight you.
He doesn't have any metal left because he's used it to maintain that. So he just kind of sinks into a stance and come on.
Yeah. Okay. So next in the list, unfortunately, it's not you this time, Davos. It is the Exalted Plague Bearer. So obviously he's been roaring. He's been bringing people into the fight. But he sort of turns himself towards you. And at first, it looks like he's about to do something. But Tanzil, you have an amulet on you.
Yeah.
You got earlier, and it starts to flicker and glow. And as he sort of like brings up his hands to cast a spell, you may use your you've got a special piece of gear. It's called the Gem of Caliph, and it allows you to automatically deny a single power per turn.
Oh, okay.
So as he sort of like comes up and sort of launches this bolt of disgusting goo at your sort of unit as your group, as it does, your gem glows up bright, and as it's about to hit Redhammer, because he's the closest one to him, as it's about to hit Redhammer, it's coming straight to your face. As far as you're concerned, you've accepted it. It's going to hit you and it's going to hurt. But as it literally does, it just dissipates into the air. And Jim, your amulet that you're wearing around the neck, the one you got from the cartographer's officers, it is glowing bright, and it sort of pulsates. And as it pulsates, that's how the spell sort of dissipates and whatnot. He is, however, going to use a metal and try to cast a second spell. And what he's going to do, he's going to cast Grandfather's Rejuvenation. Let's see if he can cast it. So he heals a load of plague bearers ahead of him, and several plague bearers who sort of started fading away and dissipating, sort of almost. One of them was kind of splitting off, kind of pulling himself back together now. And so there's a couple of plague bearers who are wounded from some of your other attacks. They're now back to full toughness.
Bloody shite demons.
But that is his turn, as he sort of like gets ready to fight you guys, because he figures that you're going to get to him sooner or later. Daphos, so over to you, sir, before all the plague bearers sort of swarming around you.
Is the big guy in range to declare a challenge?
What's the range on it? I wasn't
If the
aware it had a
target
range.
spellcaster the complexity of... Oh no, sorry. Medium range.
Medium range, yes. So he's only two zones away from where you are.
I will
so he's
declare a heroic challenge on him.
He hears your roar and heroic challenge. In the name of Sigmar, fight me! All that malarkey. He just lets out a. Wasn't the voice you were expecting from such a hulking sort of plague bearer, but that's what you get. And he has accepted your challenge.
Excellent.
And
I'll then take a whack at the nearest thing.
He also ushers a load of plague bearers forward as he says that, because I think he's going to try and weaken you before he gets onto you. But yeah, go for it. Point of metal. Swing away, good sir.
Was it?
Was you doing a point of metal
sorry.
to fight? Yeah, no, yes, average defense. You're great at hitting.
No, good.
Good. Yeah, so it'd be freeze.
Ah, that's rubbish.
You've been too busy declaring how Sigmar is an amazing god, and whatnot.
I might not do bulwark and.
Yeah, you can not do bulwark and
do it again. Yeah, I'm not going to do bulwark and attack again because that was embarrassing.
There you go. So you sort of your blade sort of plunges into the first one in front of you, and it starts to like, but obviously that spell that he just cast, it kind of is helping knitting him back together, and he's not knitting around with your sword, and you think, oh, I'm not having any of that. So you yank the sword up, and his head comes off the top and sort of flicks off into the air and starts to vanish before it hits the floor, and then you just wade through the next sort of group, and again they are dead. But there appears to be no end in sight as more are filling into these streets. You are being penned in, numbers wise. You probably think there's now upwards of 100 plague bearers, and they are absolutely all around you. They are, like I said, their intention is to drag you down, and even if they can't kill you, they're just going to put you on the floor and slowly rot you away. Maybe, I don't know, but there's a lot of them, and it's getting harder now to move forward because every time you kill some, another group is just replacing them. But it is their turn, and each of you now have two groups of them on you as they come to wade into you. So we'll make our way through. We'll start with you, Daphos. You are back to defense great now, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Defense great, cool. Oh, so close, so close. And the second group. Oh, damage 4. You are maintaining the thing at the moment, aren't you, Red Hammer?
Oh yeah.
Oh, almost had you. Red Hammer, what is your defense? Great.
Great.
Okay. Oh, no, nothing from the first one. They will get you. Someone will get damaged. But not Red Hammer.
Inevitable.
And then on to Tanzil.
Superb.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, you're dodging. So. Oh, damage 4. That will creep a point through. So you now have to do me a 4-2 body roll, please.
Now, how do I do that?
Is it just body? Or?
No, it's body fortitude. Sorry.
Fortitude,
So
okay.
use your talent for go into stats, and you'll see fortitude.
So, yeah, it's under skills. I think. Yeah, skills, bottom of the left-hand column.
Yeah.
Okay.
So close. So close.
That was a good try. Good try.
It was a good try. Yes, you are absolutely fine. This blade sort of glances your arm and you feel it cut into your skin, but the power that's sort of flowing through your body at the moment seems to push back. And at first you see a little bit of like sort of, like when you see in the movies where their veins start to go black as something spreads through them. But suddenly it just gets pushed back out and sort of runs down and trickles down your arm like goo and drips off you. And sort of you got a cut, but there's nothing going on in there at the moment, and you are fine. And that was the ones into you, good sir. And then last but by no means least, our very good tree friend. Tree friend, you are back to great now. Is that correct?
Correct. Great.
Because you are wading at the moment. Needs to say that does not damage you. Oh, so close. Because you got armor 4 at the moment because you got iron bark oil and so
this wood's oiled up.
Lovely. We all love to oil our wood. So so they sort of like flail at you, but you are starting to feel this fight while you're killing plenty of stuff. It's getting harder for all of you. You're sort of, you can see now that the ones that were coming in from the bottom of the streets, they're still flowing in from the bottom of the streets. They're filling out now. Like I said, there's probably upwards of 100 plague bearers now. They're sort of pinning you in. And what you found yourself doing is actually the 4 of you are now sort of all collectively in a zone around what was the sort of a statue of Sigmar in the middle of the town centre. And you're sort of on the steps and they're sort of forcing you inward on yourselves so that you're sort of surrounded, as it were, but you're sort of back to back fighting like true heroes. They don't seem to be doing any damage to you, but they're going to wear you down. They're just keeping you in the fight because but the exalted plague bearer, he's starting to make his way through into the forces now, and a lot of them seem to be surrounding him as if they're protecting him. But he is making his way towards Daphos. Daphos has issued a challenge, so we will go back to the top of the combat though. Daphos, you do notice one more thing, that the Temple of Sigmar, the only thing that's left glowing now is the hammer above the door. And still, if any plague bearers walk up towards the door, they go poof and pop straight away. But some of them are starting to get purchases on the walls now. They're starting to damage some of the brickwork. You can see some rot starting to form on the brickwork. But that ringing has stopped. Again, you're not sure why.
Well, hopefully, we just need to be more of a distraction.
Yes, there's certainly a lot less attacking the temple now. A lot of them because you challenged the exalted plague bearer. He's redirected his forces towards you. You're the immediate threat. Whatever's inside doesn't bother him. He was just trying to get to it. But ultimately, he's commanded his forces to now deal with you guys because you actually are a feasible threat. You've been cutting your way through his forces, and he can't have an unlimited supply of demons, right? Right. So we go back to the top. Ragewood, you've now got 4 groups surrounding you. You've each now got 4 groups. You're sort of almost like, think of yourself as a box, each on a corner, each back to back, fighting with one another, fighting alongside one another, and each of you are sort of got sort of 4 hordes sort of pressing upon you now. They are really going to try and wear you down. Ragewood, you have 4 groups on you. What would you like to do?
Well, Warrior's living his best life right now, just killing Nurgle.
Yeah, I'm sure the trees love it. Absolutely. Sweet. And of course, yes, the lovely Cleve. So the 4 that were standing in front of you, you sort of ripped through the first group. The second group looked like they were a little bit sort of bedraggled from some earlier bits and pieces in fight, and you sort of cut through a second group as well as you sort of bring yourself around. You sort of swaying, but you guys, you are, even though you are mighty heroes, you are starting to feel tired. This started off as an impressive fight, but you're sort of now 4 rounds in. You can only go for so long. You do have a limited sort of stamina, as it were. So you're feeling, your tree, it doesn't necessarily count as stamina for you, but you can sort of feel some stiffness in your bark now as you're sort of wading through them. And whereas before the power from your blades was sort of cutting them before, and it was almost like hot knife through butter, this is a bit more of a slog to the fight now. They've obviously, by being so many in a group, there's a sort of toughness to them now, and you really having to cut into them. They're going down still, but it maybe wasn't quite as easy as it was before.
Okay.
Would you like to do anything with your metal?
Yes, swing again.
Go for it.
Oh, that was a terrible roll.
That was a pretty awful roll for you. Excellent. However, you cut through the other remaining groups in front of you, so you've actually cleared a bit of space in front of you. Ultimately, what happens is it's you can see it's just going to get filled with more plague bearers. But as it is, you've just dispatched 20 plague bearers with ease in front of you. Cleave is a great weapon trait. I'm just Tanzil, over to you. You've been forced and you're sort of moving around and dodging around on your eel, and you're mounted combatant. You're used to like sort of fighting in tight confines on your eel and stuff. But even you're feeling a little bit sort of tight on space right now. And there are 4 groups ahead of you. So what would you like to do, good sir?
I'll clear the ones that are around me.
Yep, go for it. Swing away, sir. Oh, very nice. Yes, you easily dispatch with the first group that sort of makes it. They're sort of almost making your guys. It's like, think of it as like a classic town centre monument. There's a few steps up to a higher platform. And you've all sort of moved your way up onto this higher platform to give yourself a bit of high ground against them. Maybe not high ground for Grim because he's a bit short, so you're just on the same level as them now. Mm-hmm. But you as the first sort of group. Tanzil, as they kind of take their first steps onto the steps, you just cut them down, like as if to say, this is our town, we are holding this center point, and we will fight no matter what. And there's still a good strength amongst you, and Daphos, you can see that light between the 3 of them hasn't faded in any way, shape, or form. It's if anything, it's probably glowing, not brighter, but stronger. There's a strength to the light, like a toughness to it, Daphos. It's almost not jealous, but you're a little bit jealous, but Sigmar, he works through you. You're his chosen, so it's absolutely fine.
No, mate.
But what would you like to do with any metal, Jim?
I'm dodging
again,
and I'm gonna just have a bit of a shimmer with my 2 best friends, who joined to me. Yeah. You guys, while you can't see this link, obviously Daphos can see it because you're soulbound, and it's a power of Sigmar. And even though you have your own gods and things, you are linked, you're soulbound. You can feel this strength. You can feel that while the 3 of you are fighting together, you feel like you could take on the world, that, there's a strength between you. You can't see it, but it's definitely there. You can feel it. And Borir, for a brief second, there is a bit of tree song, and it simply says, coming. And that's it. Nothing else. It's going to be one of them big dudes, isn't it? The big fat boys.
So, who's next to the thing? That would be Mr. Hammer, Mr. Red Hammer.
So Grim just chuckles as he's chanting to maintain the runic empowerment, and swings Ironside again to take out another group of these.
And take out another group, you do. Again, same thing again. They sort of try to make their way up the steps, and you guys are just fighting them off and fending them back. And it's a tough fight, but it's a good fight. You at this point, you're sort of all keeping tally a little bit at this point, and you're thinking, oh yeah. Borir's miles ahead. He's just dispatched 20 in a single round of combat, but you're putting in good numbers today, people. There still seems to be more flowing into the town centre, but it does seem to be sort of slowing now. There are gaps appearing behind them, but there's still upward of 100. You're not sure if you're going to be able to break them before they break you. but you're going to go
Red-
out. You're going to go out either way. You don't care.
Red Hammer just cracks his neck and just, come on.
And of course, what follows up is now the Exalted Plague Bearer. And he's got quite close to you now. And he attempts to cast Plague Wind. Jim, would you like to use your gem of Cathilian to stop it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So as he sort of summons, you can see this green evil smoke appear above him. And that's sort of as it starts to swirl around and make its way towards the four of you in the middle. Part of you now, Red Hammer, tactically, you're thinking, actually, maybe they've put us all in the same space so that this guy can do his thing. But as he does, sort of Jim Tanzil, he kind of looks at the magic and it just says, kind of go away to it, and the gem sort of pulses again and the spell dissipates. And this time he's going to try and do, as a follow-up spell, he's going to spend a metal again. And he's going to try and do Arcane Bolt. Arcane Blast, actually. Arcane Blast. So he's going to throw an Arcane Blast. No, actually, no. Arcane Bolt. Arcane Bolt. We don't want to do explosive. Daphos, he kind of looks at you and he like smiles. He's like, oh, you're going to enjoy this one, Silverman. And he launches a. He's got to just let me just boop boop.
Does this count as a missile weapon?
No, it does not. It is a magic spell. So he like, and he like, it's like a gooey sort of bolt, and it kind of hits you, and it does. Let me just quickly put. Oh, it does 4 damage. I think you're still 4 damage armor, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this one doesn't ignore armor. The first spell he tried to do did ignore armor, but this one does not. So it hits you. It kind of comes at you, and you see at the last minute as you're sort of wading through plague bearers, and you sort of lift your shield, and it hits your shield. You can feel the force of it sort of boom against you, but the shield crackles with lightning as it does, as if to sort of say almost dispelling it as it smacks your shield. But you don't take any damage, but you realize now that this guy's probably got the know-how and the sort of strength to sort of do you some damage if he gets sort of any of these decent spells off. But yes, so back now. Actually, plague bearers. We've got plague bearers to go, and Dathos still to go. What am I on about? I'm getting so worked up in the story of the fight that I'm missing the actual fight. Dathos, it's your turn, sir. Go ahead. What would you like to do?
Can I get to him?
No, he's still another zone behind. And what you notice is that wherever he walks with a cadre of about 20 of them, and they literally are around
Like
him.
a box.
Yeah. If anything, you think like they're acting as almost human shields, essentially. So if you were even if you were to try and strike at them, they would just get in the way. That's
Then
sort of.
I will make.
But he is making his way towards you, though, so it probably won't be too long before he gets into your zone anyway.
Okay. Well, I'll try and make another attack.
Go for it, good sir. Oh, and attack you do.
Bella.
Lovely, jubbly. Yeah, you easily sort of as that sort of hits you and that crackling of lightning as it dissipates, you kind of use that lightning and force it almost a bit like Thor's hammer, really. You kind of throw the lightning back into the group that's coming towards you, and it sort of bursts 2 apart, and then you bring your sword round and cut another 2 apart.
Do the immigrant song. And I'll spend a point of metal to raise bulwark.
Absolutely, yeah. You are very much outnumbered and surrounded, so that I think it's fair to use that at this point in time. And you now have sort of, even though you've been cutting them down and that, you now each have 3 groups on you to swing at you. So we'll work our way around. So I'll be back to superb defense, aren't we, Mr. Daphos? We'll start with you. So let's just do some rolling. So close. Why do you all have to have extra armor? Shows a way for me to multi-roll this. Nope. Yeah. So our viewers don't have to. So close. And then we'll go to Grim. Grim, what's your defense right at the moment? Great again.
Great.
Outrageous.
It's just not right, is it? Just not fair.
Oh, but you do take some damage, good sir.
Yep. All right.
Give me a 4-2 body roll, please.
Let's do it. And you said 4-2?
Yes, it's 4-2 and it's a 42 body roll. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no! You must now apply poisoned to yourself. So if you go into the effects, you'll see there's a little jar. It only lasts for one. It only lasts for till their next turn. So it only lasts one turn. But for your next attack, it imposes a penalty of 1
can we get it?
from your dice pool. And you do take a point of damage.
Got it.
But there's still 2 more to swing at you, good sir. So just bear with me, because I was not expecting to hit.
That was rude. It was painful and rude.
Yeah. Next one does nothing. And the next one does nothing. So the next 2 are the first group sort of makes its way up the steps and is hitting at you and sort of cuts you. And it doesn't, normally they kind of just bounce off your runes, but it seems to have found a bit of space in between one of your runes and has cut you. And you can see sort of like there's some gunk making its way through your the wound and whatnot.
Ah, bloody hell.
Tanzel, you're superb at the moment, aren't you, good sir?
Yes, mate.
Okay, lovely. Let's just roll this. Oh, Tanzel, you get hit.
Yeah,
give me a 4-2 fortitude roll, please.
A fortitude roll.
It was bound to happen after all. I mean, we are getting attacked by 100 plague bearers. So.
There is a lot of them. Okay, on the effects tab, you'll see a little bottle that has a little skull and crossbones on it.
Have we got any rerolls?
I have no idea. I am not watching
Nope.
Twitch, unfortunately.
That is a big no.
No rerolls today.
Yes, viewers, thank you. Don't be generous to them. So apply yourself poison again. It only lasts until the next turn, but it does give you a -1 on all your dice rolls for any tests.
How do I do that?
If you go to the effects tab,
Yeah.
and you'll see there's a little jar
Yeah.
with a skull and crossbones on it. If you click the little box, it should automatically apply it to all your future
Excellent.
rolls.
Yeah.
Cool. And you do take 2 points of damage because you're currently armor free. And then here comes the other ones. You'll see, oh man, that was a great roll. Nothing on that one. And nothing on that one. So the others don't do anything to you. But obviously, as explained, they're sort of wading into you now. They're sort of weighing you down with numbers, and they're starting to find purchase with you. Bori, you're good at the moment currently?
Great.
Great. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Nothing on the first one. Nothing on the second one. And on the third one. Oh, and on the last one, does 1 point of damage, which means you need to give me a 4-2 fortitude roll. I like this. This is thematic because you're starting to get wounded.
Slowly chipping away at us.
Oh, you're fine. So you're the tree. You're a healthy, and you're in the realm of life. So again, sort of like you can see sort of a blackness sort of move onto your bark, but then obviously like there's a strength in your soul that sort of pushes it out, and it kind of makes its way out of your body. And you're not poisoned, but you're all looking around now. This fight's looking pretty desperate. You're all starting to take cuts and bruises, and they're sort of still flowing into the town center, and it's looking at, as I said, looking a bit desperate. Those of you with hair, there's a staticness in the air. Your hair starts to stand up. Even you, Mr. Tanzel, who has a wetness to you, there's a static feeling in the air. Bori, you can feel the static, but obviously it's not making anything on you stand up because you don't have hair. And in a glorious clap of thunder, a lightning bolt strikes right in the middle of the big horde that was coming up from the bottom of the town center and explodes outwards. And about 7 of them just disappear in the lightning bolt alone. And kneeling in a hero pose as the lightning sort of dissipates, there is a heavy-set, silver-clad warrior. Daphos, you don't even need to think about it. You know who this guy is. He's a goddamn legend to your order. It is Garda Stillsoul. He has just appeared, and without breaking even sort of a moment's set, he stands up, hammer and sword in hand, and starts wading into a load of plague bearers ahead of him. You're not sure why he doesn't say anything. He just literally has appeared and has started smashing in. But Daphos, for a little minute, you fangirl a little bit, because this is Garda Stillsoul. This guy is a legend amongst the Hallowed Knights. He went in. He got he charged a great unclean one into the realm of plagues and got trapped there. And he got trapped in the realm of Nurgle for countless years and then reappeared as this massive hero. And he's just Anthem to these Nurgle demons around him. He's breaking them, and they're sort of like, he's just stepping towards them, and the sort of the power that's coming off him is dissipating them. And it's glorious to watch it. And as that clap of thunder comes down, it's almost like it's a rallying cry. And bursting out from the doors of the temple behind you, for Sigmar! And standing there in plate armor, bald head, with a big hammer, it appears to be a warrior priest of Sigmar. And, you know, sort of you guess now that his hammer has been hammering something on the inside and making that glow on the temple. And there's a few free guild guard, and standing behind him in a long brimmed hat is a man in a long trench coat and a very large repeating pistol. And crack, crack, crack it goes, and several plague bearers go down. And the exalted plague bearer, he looks a little bit put out because they still massively outnumber the small band of warriors, but there's maybe a reprieve. Maybe you are going to pull this, and we go back to the top. Mr. Ragewood, there are 3 groups ahead of you.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the one that actually cut me, because screw them in particular. Oh, I didn't change the thing, so that should be
2 more successes there, right?
Yeah.
Their average, you're great. Yeah, so 2 more
Yeah,
successes. And yeah, okay, fantastic. Yeah, you sort of cleave down, and that first group dissipates ahead of you, and you step forward and bring your back across, and the cleave damage sort of does another sort of row of them, and you sort of clear out 2 rows ahead of you. And you can see now that where they were getting stronger and tougher from so many of them being in there, there's now a power in this area that's sort of helping break them down. And the power of what was ever holding them here is now starting to break, because there's so much power from yourselves and the sort of rejuvenated defenders of the temple, and obviously the legend that is Guard of Steelsoul, Lord Celestin Guard of Steelsoul, who you don't know. Some of you might know his name if Daphos tells you it, but at the moment you don't know he is just by viewing. Only Daphos knows who he is by seeing him, because it's very clearly him. And yeah, so you just sort of wade in and then sort of break down 2 rows. Would you like to do anything with your metal?
Yeah, let's just keep swinging.
Yeah.
So can I kind of try and make my way towards where Dathos is? Because
Yeah,
I want to try and basically
Yeah.
kill the plague bearers in between him and the...
Yeah, do you know what? I'll give it to you,
Bigger
because
one.
as you were sort of cleaving, you've sort of cleared that space, and you can see now Daphos, the exalted plague bearer is 1 zone away from Daphos. He's been making his way towards Daphos, sort of shooting off his little spells and stuff. But he is making his way towards Daphos, and you reckon that you could probably, with a good swing, you could break that row out from in front of Daphos and free him to get to the exalted plague bearer.
Oh, I forgot to change. Never mind, it didn't really apply there.
I'm actually, due to what you're trying to do, I am going to give you a free soulfire on it, because your power, you're doing this heroic deed. You're trying to break out your ally to get to the main problem, what you think is the tether for these plague bearers here.
Oh,
So
I can't actually do it with Soulfire.
that's fine. We know that it all changes the 6s and the cleave damage. So you sort of draw on your rage, you draw your power. Daphos, you can feel this warmth coming from behind you, and that power you saw linking the 3 earlier is even brighter, and Ragewood just kind of almost comes across the front of you in a flash and just rips all of these plague bearers away from you, and some of them are hanging onto his wood and stuff. It's almost like, you know, sort of an ent in with all the orcs climbing on him, but he's just like, no, and he breaks this gap, and there's now a gap ahead of you, and you can see clear path through to this exalted plague bearer. But before it comes to you, Tanzil.
Yeah.
There are 3 groups ahead of you, but they are starting to break apart now. Some of them are sort of redirecting towards this new guy who you have no idea who he is. This big silver guy, kind of looks like Daphos, but it's got a hammer and a sword and a cape, and you know, he's wading into a load of them elsewhere. And you can see, you've seen the guys coming out of the sort of the temple and wading into them and stuff. So maybe there's a break in the point for you, and ahead of you there's sort of 3 groups trying to get to you.
Yeah, we'll smash them.
Absolutely. Excellent. And what you find is you sort of go into them. Again, I've talked about this link between all of you. You're soulbound. You're all linked, and your powers are strength and linked. your blade almost feels like it becomes bigger and brighter. And as you do, your weapon gains the cleave trait and cuts into a load of them and breaks down another 2 rows ahead of you. So you've broken down 2 more plague bearers. You've cut into both of them. You're not sure how you did it, but maybe some of that power, that soul fire that Ragewood used to cut down, it sort of seeped into the way, and you've just cut down 2 more groups of plague bearers. Would you like to do anything with your metal?
Dodge.
Dodge, lovely. And that brings us to Red Hammer.
So what Red Hammer wants to do is, with his action, he wants to dodge, and then he wants to move basically in behind Dathos, like into his wake, so that he can be in position to support him in his fight against the Exalted Plague Bearer, in case he needs some immediate healing.
Absolutely. Yeah, fine, no problem at all. Yeah, you'd absolutely do that. Sort of, actually, you've got a bit of free space anyway, because you were cutting down groups, and like I said, some of them have sort of turned now to sort of face towards the oncoming Stormcast guy again, who you're not sure who it is, but he looks like he's doing a dandy job over there. Literally every hammer strike seems to be blowing about 4 of them apart. You know, it's explosive and it's lightning, and it's, you know, it's fairly awe-inspiring. You'll never admit it, but it's fairly awe-inspiring to watch. But yeah, you move in behind Dathos.
Dathos, that tin can back there, he's doing a pretty good job. We may have to cut him in on a percentage of the contract.
Yeah. So yeah, you move him behind. Next up is the priest as he comes out of the Temple of Sigmar, and for Sigmar, slay them! And you see his hammer sort of going into them, and they're just bursting apart. It's a big old hammer, you know, almost something a Stormcast would wield. It's a big hammer. He's a tall man. He's not muscular. He's not big, like bulky, but he's very tall, and he's sort of bringing his hammer around. And then again, the sort of the wide brim hat guy, you hear crack, crack, crack as his pistol fires off another 3 shots, and you know, you see it as the bullets hit them, and sort of at the corner of your eye, Grim, because you know you're an appraiser of these expensive metals, you can see that there's a silvery glint to these bullets as they're flying through these demons. And then we get to the Exalted Demon. He's now noticed that the battle has turned very much against him, despite their numbers still being in their favor. This rejuvenated power from yourselves and your now reinforcements is really breaking their sort of resolve, and they're starting to. So he charges at you, Dathos, thinking that if he can cut you down, he'll at least get rewarded when he's sent back to the realm of the realm of demons, as it were. So the first thing he does is he's going to do Mystic Shield to himself. Tanzil, would you like to try and block that with your finger?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So he sort of like, you know, weird words that don't really make any sense to you guys, but his hand starts to glow. But then obviously Tanzil grips tight on his pendant as he feels the sort of winds of magic coming, and you know, it dissipates and doesn't do anything. So he then wades and goes, you know, he's decided now that that's not going to work, and he brings his sword, and it's a big old sword, Dathos. It's almost as tall as you are, and he brings it around. And what's your defense rating? Is it great, or is it good, or is it superb, Dathos?
Superb now.
Oh, superb, lovely, even better for this guy. It's not better for him, but there we go. No, but he will use another point of metal to strike again. He is determined to do some damage to you. Oh, okay. He's got some. Oh no, never mind. I've just rolled the wrong one, haven't I? Silly me. I've just rolled the wrong person. So ignore that test. That was for a plague bearer, not wrong person. There we go. Right, and then up and up, and apply the focus. So you do take a point of damage as he sort of swings this massive sword into you, and it beds into you. Can you give me a body fortitude roll of 4-2, please?
Can I just click that button?
Yes, I think you can actually.
Yes, you can.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Click it.
There you go.
There we are. I forgot that you've got like a million body and fortitude. So yeah, I mean, he digs in, and you can feel like this taint trying to get into your body, but You're Daphos. No, and nothing. But you do take some damage as he sort of wades into you a
Yes.
bit.
How many toughness do I take?
I believe you're armor 4 at the moment, so it's just the 1. He just does 5 damage to you. But yeah, so he sort of hits you, and sort of like these plague bearers sort of gather up around him to try and protect him as best they can, but their numbers are dwindling. For the rest of you, sort of, you got now sort of that again. You can see their numbers are falling now as all of these forces, and there's some free guild guards stabbing a few of them up there, and even their weapons appear to be glowing as if the priest of Sigmar sort of like, roaring and shouting prayers to Sigmar, and it seems to be making their weapons almost holy against them. And sort of now where they were pinning you in the middle, they're now pinned in from 2 sides. With the reinforcements there, and Garda Steel Soul sort of smashing his way through, and then you guys making your way out from the center. They're in a bit of disarray at this point, and each of you are getting attacked by like sort of one group of them now as they're sort of in disarray, sort of fading from this existence. Am I right in saying that you're pretty much all great defense apart from you, Tanzu, who's at superb, isn't it?
I'm superb at the moment because I took the dodge action.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm
Okay.
superb as well because I took Bulwark.
Don't worry, the plague bearers aren't attacking you, Daphos. They are just trying to protect the
Dan,
exalted.
is my poison effect gone now?
Yeah, yes, it will do now. Yes, because it now goes as it gets back to their turn. So, all right, we'll do the first one into you then, Tanzil. No, we'll do a 1 into the lovely Dwarden. No, and then Bore, are you great or superb at the moment?
Great.
Great, that's fine. 3, but you're armor 4 at the moment, so you're absolutely fine. And so they're sort of hitting at you and sort of thing. But like I said, they almost seem like they're in disarray now. The exalted plague bearer who was commanding them and leading them and driving them onwards, his concentration now is very much now towards personal glory because he can see the direction his battle's going. Maybe if he kills this guy, he goes back to the realm of the demons, he won't get too badly punished for failing, basically. So he's no longer commanding them, and that seems to have made them even more disjointed, and they're sort of breaking apart. And again, we'll go back to the top. Ragewood, you've got sort of
isn't it Dathos?
Dathos, yes, of course. What am I doing? I'm forgetting the very important jewel of Dathos and the exotic plague. The exotic plague bearer is before you, and you have heroically challenged him. So you go ahead, sir.
Charge him, or is he?
You don't. No, he's there. He's charged you already, so he came into you.
Then have it.
Defense wise, he is good.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right.
That is all right. Okay, so they plague bearers unsurprisingly do not have armor, so you do 5 points of damage to him.
Nice.
I might do it again. Yeah, I'm not going to take Bulwark. I will go again. I can take a hit from him. So not so good, but still.
Yeah. Your second hit, as he sort of wails as you sort of hit him the first time, 2 plague bearers kind of dive in the way and take the blows from that. Like they're trying to protect him. Obviously, they're in disarray, but he's like, as he wails, it's almost like a command. So he's like as you hit him, and 2 sort of plague bearers kind of get in the way of your second strike, and sort of they dissipate as you blade them down. But ultimately, they've sort of stopped the extra blow to him. And we go back to the top. Ragewood, there doesn't appear to be too many away from you now. There's a sort of group off to your right now of about 10, and they're sort of attacking the people who are coming out of the temple. You see that there's still a couple trying to get round them inside the temple to civilians, but still as they step up onto the steps, they burn and dissipate. To your left, you see the big silver guy who just appeared out of nowhere. He's wading into about 20 of them. They're surrounding him, but again, doesn't look too difficult. And then sort of behind you, you see where you just charged from, where you were standing a little while ago. You see Tanzil, he's facing off there's about 10 of them over there as well. So their numbers are depleting very quickly from this onslaught. But what would you like to do, good sir?
There's some around Dathos.
Yes, there is indeed. There's about 8 now. There was about 10, but there's now about 8, and they are very much crowding in front of the exalted plague bearer, protecting him, stopping sort of Dathos.
I'm going to try and
purchase.
Get them out of the way so Dathos can deal with the exalted.
Swing away, good sir. I will not allow the cleave to hit the exalted plague bearer though, because obviously their intention is to protect him. So anything you do sort of cleave, it'll cleave the other plague bearers, but won't get to him behind. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Daphos, sort of you're getting a bit frustrated that these plague bearers are in front and they're sort of blocking you and stopping you from getting to him. But again, as earlier, it's almost like a rugby charge rather than a sort of blade. And you hear this sort of raging as these forever queen and Boreas sort of charges through shoulder first and basically just moves all of the plague bearers out of your way. That there's no more plague bearers in front of you. And as you do that, Ragewood, sort of you feel that there's like sort of, inside your chest plate, you're glowing green as if like the Everqueen is giving you an extra strength and power. And they sort of impale as your sort of ficklets on your shoulders almost grow sharper as you charge. And they just impale on them. And there's like the green power sort of leaks through into them. And they die by growing flowers out of them, and they fall on the floor, and there's now a load of flower patches on the floor of beautiful flowers, and you believe that the Everqueen has acted through you to not only kill these creatures but to purify the area. And you can see now these flowers are starting to spread out across the floor and dissipating where all these sort of rots fallen down. It's starting to make its way across the floor and sort of purify the area of the Nurgle's rot. But yeah, you've cleared.
So is that all the plague bearers around me?
That's all the plague bearers around. You'd have to
All
take
right.
a move action to get into another zone now.
In which case, I will swing at the exalted one.
Go for it.
Because, yeah, Bori is just killing whatever's nearest.
Oh, absolutely.
Nurgle.
He's defense good.
Defense good. Okay.
Yeah, you get some purchase on him. You hit him, and he run no as you sort of hit him.
I
in the
need
back.
to hit defense good 3s.
Yes. So you can get an extra point on that. He's not dead, but he is Nurgle. They are fairly tough. But he does squeal. No, grandfather Nurgle, help me! And yeah, he's still standing, but he is a little bit hurt, to say the least. But it is Tanzil next. Tanzil, before you is sort of 10 loosely affiliated plague bearers at this point. Then they're sort of like they're looking at each other and sort of almost contemplating running away, if demons would even contemplate running away. But they're sort of standing in front of you as if they realize they've gone from 100 to about 30 in the space of about 5 minutes.
Yeah, they've just gone to a few more less as well. So
yeah, you didn't even need to. Like the last of them, you just dispatch the last of them with ease. They're gone. That what was holding them to this realm is slowly fading and fading quicker as the exalted plague bearer takes more damage. You were right in your assumption, Daphos, that this guy was tethering them to this realm. That takes us to Red Hammer. Red Hammer, you are obviously behind.
So since Dathos didn't really take a lot of damage, he'll pivot out around from behind and swing Ironside at the exalted Nurgle from the other side.
Go for it.
However, I will continue to maintain my runic empowerment.
No, of course, I would expect nothing less.
And so his defense is good. Okay.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So as you sort of like, you almost like you were there behind Daphos and you kind of like realize you're not needed and you kind of roll off of him around the staircase. It's actually fairly acrobatic for a Dwarden. Normally you're fairly straightforward with what you do.
The momentum of the axe is just pulling me around.
Yeah, it's almost like a goblin fanatic, only you're a Dwarden with an axe instead. So you kind of spin round Daphos's large frame, almost using the gravitational pull of the giant silver man to bring you around, and your axe embeds hard in the side of this exotic playground. And you can see now that his body's starting to fade away where your axe has landed. He's like, no, I was trying, no. He's not dead, but you're fairly certain he is close to it, and he will get to try and do something before. He's going to try and cast Plague Wind. Tanzil, your amulet starts to glow.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to use the last of his strength to summon up this thing. He's going to use a point of metal to try use Grandfather's Rejuvenation next to try and heal himself a little bit.
Smart.
And he's got some focus available there, so let's do that. Apply focus. So he heals 4 wounds. So you can see where his body was fading, Aaron. it starts to sort of seal back down towards your axe. And then he's going to use another point of metal to cast Mystic Shield on himself. And he is going to apply several points of focus here because he can. He is a champion after all. So for now, for the next 3 rounds, his defense has gone up a step. So he now gets an additional step, and it's going to last for 3 additional rounds after this round. And then with his final point of metal, he is going to swing and try to hit Dathos, because that's who challenged him. Dathos, you are defense great now because there's no one else around you to walk.
I dropped it anyway because I attacked twice.
Oh, of course you did, didn't you? Yeah. And he does 5 points of damage. Can you do me a body fortitude test? I don't know why I'm asking you to do me a body fortitude test, but give me one anyway, just in case you roll badly. No, you don't. He again gains purchase. You take a point of damage, but he doesn't really do anything to you. His big deadly thing was his plague wind, and unfortunately, you've got a magical amulet that's stopping magical spells. But yeah, so he's quite badly damaged now. You can hear this priest of Sigmar chanting all sorts of things in the background, and it looks like him and the Free Guild and the crack, crack, crack of the gun you keep hearing going off. That appears to be sort of finishing off the last few over there. To the other side, you can hear the clap of thunder as the hammer from the other silver guy sort of breaks up. There appears to be next to no plague bearers left now. Dathos, it is your turn. And standing before you is a fairly mortally wounded.
Get at this gentleman. He's on. His defense is up now, though, isn't it?
His defense. He's now defense great. So he's going to be a bit harder because he's trying to make it hard for you. But currently embedded in him is an axe and a giant scythe. So
how's that?
That's fairly decent.
And you can apply a focus.
You can apply a focus and give yourself another point of damage.
What, on the 5 or the 3?
On the 3.
5.
Oh,
on the 5 because he can't. Yeah, because he wants to take it to a 6. Because the 3 will only get him to a 4. So he's still standing, but as your blade goes in, he wails and he cries and he screams. No, this is supposed to be my moment.
But 2.
That he doesn't have. They don't have armor. That is enough to finish him. And so as you drive your blade in, you almost feel like it's a bit icky and a bit stucky and it smells horrible. But you sort of oink the blade up a little bit, and it sort of you think you catch what might be its heart if it had one. And it, and rather than exploding, he kind of goes out, sort of shudders and starts to grow fat, and then and he's gone. And there are no plague bearers in the area. It seems, and the flowers that came off of Boreas sort of rage.
I will straight away kneel where the thing has fallen and pray to Sigmar.
Excellent, fantastic, it's beautiful. There's a moment of you can feel divine light on you. Coming out of the sort of the church, the temple, there's a load of civilians, probably in excess of about 50 civilians. It was a big temple; they can get quite a lot in there. But the warrior priest and the brimmed hat man, you can barely see his eyes sort of between the top of his coat and the bottom of his hat, sort of make their way over to you. And you can see on this guy, on the guy with the hat, he's got a big old bandolier and he kind of puts his very fancy looking pistol into it. And they come over and they introduce themselves. And the priest turns to you and goes, "Oh, good show. I was holding the temple closed with the power of Sigmar. It's good to see you. I am Hans Hammerfall." He is Hans Hammerfall, the warrior priest of Sigmar. And then the sort of, he's big and boisterous and loud. Think Brian Blessed in terms of voice and loudness. The other gentleman very quietly sort of nods to you and just says, "Dietrich von Gessel at your service." And you can see on his hat, there is the silver hammer of Sigmar. He's clearly a witch finder. And they thank you for coming to our aid. We've been ringing the anvil bell for days, holding the sort of wards up, but it was getting harder. You came just in time, and sort of off in the distance you can see Skardus. He's not come over to talk to you. He's off exploring and looking at things. Dathos, he doesn't say anything to you. He doesn't call for you, but in your mind, he's beckoning you to come over to him. And you can't help but follow that command. You're not staying with the conversation with these 3, with the 2 new guys. You sort of wander off.
Go and play with my new friend.
Yeah. To you guys, these guys are standing in front of you now talking to you.
So, Father Hammerfall, what's What do you think is fair compensation for freeing your town and keeping you all from being destroyed by Nurgle? I'm thinking 5 bars of Urgold.
Good man, if I had 5 bars of gold, I would have summoned an army of fire slayers. Ah!
But you only needed 1, so
Well, I mean, we came to your aid in the end, did we not? Surely, service of Sigmar is fair recompense.
no, I don't think so. I mean, don't get me wrong. We like helping Sigmar out. He clearly needs a lot of help. So, how about 2 bars of Urgold and a cask of your best mead that you've got back in that temple? I know you've got at least 1 back there.
And he sort of raises his hammer up and hits the pommel on the floor, and it and a light. You can clear. Everyone can see this light sweeps out, and it clears all the rot in sort of like a sort of 200-meter radius. And he was like, "We have no payment for you, but you can have my hammer. I will join you on your quest, for it seems you seem to be doing Sigmar's work, and I will join you." And Dietrich, are you sure, friend? Ah, Dietrich, you always worry about these things. You will guide them back to Hammerhall, and with the last of the Free Guild Guard, I will join these noble warriors of Sigmar. I could see the light shining upon them. And he's offering you his hammer and his service in payment of...
Can't we just take his hammer?
I mean, you could try.
Well,
I don't suggest you do. He is in heavy plate mail, fairly heavy plate. You equate to probably being medium armor. He's got a thick chest plate. He's a big, strong-looking lad. He's not some weedy little bloke.
Well, Chaplain, I think that's a pretty fair deal. You've got my axe in my hand on that.
I
Good.
require no payment for slaying the foul creatures of Nurgle.
That's what I like to hear. Yes.
Don't listen to the tree. He just likes sunlight and dirt. The rest of us need to eat.
Yeah. And so while your conversation's going on and you're all sort of making jokes now and you realize this warrior priest is very much up your street in terms of sort of like where you want to be going. He's offered himself as payment to help you finish your quest, and by doing so will then be recompensed for the
He
service.
can carry the stuff.
Yeah. Daphos, you meet up with Gardas Steelsoul, and like I said, this is
Gardas Steelsoul.
he is a legend, not just amongst the Hallowed Knights, but amongst all Stormcast Eternals. He's one of the head Lord Celestants of your chamber. He has a specific chamber named after him. They're called the Steel Souls. He's a legend, and he sort of turns to you, and he's sort of, his voice reverberates around you. Ah, you must be Daphos.
Yes, my lord.
I was told about you by Lord Arcanum, and you were sent off by the Lord Celestant Avros Stormbreaker, was you not? To find our missing brothers and sisters.
Yes, my lord.
Excellent. Yes, well, I was warned about you by Evros Stormcaller. And
Warned?
Well, warned that you were maybe impetuous at times, and you were still youthful as a Stormcast, I guess is the true term. No. But I was looking from Azir to find our brothers and sisters, and I saw the light shining from you and your friends here, and the duties you were trying to achieve. And so I felt necessary to intervene and aid you. And, again, you're just fangirling. This guy is absolutely glorious. He's got beautiful blonde hair. He's like strong. He's got his hammer and his sword. But I must talk to you alone.
Is he clearly a Slanesh Rushbow?
No. He's very much like, he is a living legend. He's as close as you sort of guys, the Hallowed Knights, have got to like a superhero. He is amazing. He turns up doing superhero poses. So, what can you say? But he sort of leads you further away from out of earshot so that the others can definitely not hear your conversation. 5 of our brothers and sisters fell here, and he takes you and shows you another 2 scorch marks. However, they have not returned to Azir, nor to the Anvil of Apotheosis to be reforged.
Where have they gone?
I do not know, but I fear it is what you are actually searching for. And he sort of takes you over to some human bodies, and they're Free Guild Guard. And of course, when you came into the city, that wasn't where your concentration was, but he rolls one of the bodies over, and he like leans down to it with you and brings you down. And he's like, these were not killed by Nurgle weapons. And he shows you, and you can see now clearly the marks of hammers, often wielded by liberators. Stormcast Eternals have killed these humans, not Nurgle. I do not know why, but our brothers and sisters have killed many of these humans in this town.
My mind just can't even contemplate such a thing.
Nor
Why
I
would they
mine.
be smiting, Sigmarites and loyal servants to Sigmar?
It is unknown to me, but it may also have something to do with the fact that they have not returned to the anvil. We are unsure, but there have been grumblings of late, people hearing voices as they reforge. And then he sort of says to you, what we have been told, there is something being commanded. Hallowed are the gods. And that gives you a chill, Daphos, because when you were being reforged, that's the words you heard. You're probably not going to tell him this, because obviously there's a negative connotation now to this. But he goes on to explain. We're not sure how much of our soul is stripped each time we are reforged. And what they have not told you when they sent you out, and I will tell you this in the utmost secrecy, that the reforging process has its problems, and we lose a bit of our humanity each time we are reforged.
I felt it. We were in an encounter in a den of scum and villainy, and we were talking to this gentleman, this crime boss, and I just basically killed him for no reason during negotiations, and it was almost as if I was disconnected from the situation.
Indeed, this is something that's been infecting many of our brothers and sisters, and so we stray further and further away from our humanity, and this may be the cause. And he sort of points back to the body with the hammer. You must not tell your allies about this. And he sort of like hands you something. In your moment of direst need, or if you find our brothers and sisters, call for me. And it's like a small horn. That doesn't even look big enough for you to blow on it, but he's giving you this little small horn. Call for me and I shall aid you. But for now,
Yes, my lord, thank you.
I must return. Best of luck, Sir Daphos. And with that, there's a clap of thunder, and he sort of vanishes off back to Azir to go more researching. But this has kind of shook you at your deepest soul, Daphos, because when you were reforging, you heard, "Hallowed are the gods," and that's just that's not something you. In fact, normally with the reforging process, you don't really hear or feel anything. You kind of just brought back into being. But this is troubling news, and the fact that there's sort of bodies around here with marks of damage in them from liberators, it's very concerning. So you sort of roll the body back over so that nobody else sort of notices it as you're gonna leave the city. But so are you going to make your way back to the others now?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so you're sort of walking back up. So you guys, you're sort of chatting to Hans Hammerfall and Dietrich, and Dietrich sort of preparing the civilians. Hey, quickly, yes, gather as many as you can. We don't want to stay here. The city, the town is damaged, and until we can bring a new Dawnbreaker crusade up here, we must return to Hammerhall to make sure that we protect the civilians. And there's, the few Free Guild Guard that were there sort of rallying. A few civilians are picking up weapons. But you do notice there's a sort of nervousness about the crowd as many of them sort of look off in Daphos's direction. Big silver guy walking over, he's a Stormcast Eternal. Maybe there's a bit of reverence, but there's certainly a level of nervousness sort of coming that direction. No one says anything or does anything, but all three of you can sense this as Daphos is returning towards the group. There's a nervousness amongst the humans and survivors here. And Daphos, as you get there, you see this man in a big brim hat, and he's sort of organizing things. But there's another man. He's bald. He's got sort of a silver circlet around his head, wearing very plain armor, but it's got the hammer of Sigmar on it. And he sort of kneels to you and puts his hand on top of his hammer, and he's, servant of Sigmar. I am Hans Hammerfall, and I have pledged my hammer to you and your group here to help you see your quest done as repayment for what you have done here.
You don't have to kneel to me. I work for a living.
Stormcast with a sense of humor. I like it. And he sort of taps his hammer on the front of your armor, very gesturally, like friendly, not like smashes you. But as he stands up fully, he's not much shorter than you. He's not a Stormcast Eternal, but he's pretty damn tall for a human. And that was, you suddenly realize actually, you haven't checked the compass, and as you sort of lift up the compass, It's not spinning anymore. It's not pointing towards the town anymore. It's now pointing back in the original direction it was pointing you on. And maybe you were meant to see something here, because the compass is powered by the light of Malleus, and it has a sentience of its own. And you're not entirely sure you understand it, but it's now pointing you back in a direction. And villagers give you some supplies and whatnot.
Come, my comrades. The compass points yonder.
And you make your way out of the northern gates and continue to head off in what you believe is the direction of the sacred grove. And as you do, sort of Hans is talking to you and sort of explaining this journey to you. And he says, yes, well, obviously we knew the enemy were coming. There was a force of humans, elves, and even a Sylvaneth hunting party. They said they were survivors from some attack on the road. And they simply said that the tree song told them that they needed to defend a sacred grove. Who would have known, eh? And at that, we will finish the episode as you march on your road towards the sacred grove, and our finale next week. So hopefully you can join us for next week. Hope you had fun and enjoying with us tonight. It was a bit more of a combat-centric event tonight, but it was all about that heroic fight, as it were. I have no idea what's coming up on Garblag. I will turn to Aaron. Aaron, what's coming up on Garblag this week?
My understanding is there is nothing currently going on Thursday during the day. However, Thursday night, Garblag North America, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, absolute middle of the night for you in Great Britain, but you should set your alarms and wake up to watch it, because we are going to be playing some more Achtung Cthulhu. Modifius is 2D20. We're premiering their Forced of Fear campaign, and they are sponsoring us, and they're going to be a free giveaway tomorrow of some physical books, so well worth it. One of my absolute favorite games. So check it out. And then I believe on Friday at normal time, Lewis will be back playing, or Lewis will be back running some Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, his Sky Pirate campaign.
All exciting stuff. So come over, join us on Twitch, watch all the stuff we're doing. And if you can't join us on Twitch, hopefully you're coming over to YouTube and watching us there, and vice versa. And also come and join us on our Discord, where we talk a lot and you can talk to us all the time. And we're there, and it's a great community to be involved in. I'm sure all these guys here will agree with me on that point. So without further ado, I shall bid you all a fond farewell. And until next week, good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.